The Olympic city of Seoul, Korea, it's an apt setting for The Voice versus a very special guest. Hello everybody, I'm Michael Chavello. Great to be here with you in Seoul. Well, you think of the Olympic Games and you think of Mount Olympus, ancient Greece, and these mythological figures engaged in hand-to-hand combat. If there's one man in modern combat sports who is the embodiment of those Herculean figures of the past, it has to be my special guest, Alistair Overeem. The Reem. What can you say about him that hasn't been said before? The man is awesome. The man is a monster. You think of those jumping knee knockouts against the likes of Evident Teixeira in K1 and Fujita Dynamite that put Fujita into a mini coma. You think about the way that he manhandled Brett Rogers in Strikeforce and threw him around the cage like a rag doll. How about the way that he broke Peter Ertz's rib cage, or that standing guillotine on James Thompson? The Reem is just an epic human being, but as you're going to discover over the next hour, there's a certain charm to Alistair Overeem. So sit back, strap yourselves in and enjoy The Voice versus The Reem. Oh, and just one point of note, if you ever face The Reem in a fight, your face is going to end up looking like this. All right, The Reem, Alistair Overeem, welcome to The Voice Versus. Fantastic to have you here. Got to start by asking you a question I've wanted to know for a long, long time. The scar on your face, how did you get this? Because there's so many rumours floating around. One rumour that I read is that you're in a car accident. Another one said that you got glassed in a street fight. Another one said you got it playing with your cat when you were young. And another one had also to do with pussies, but a different type. Let's say Tony Montana style scar. I mean, there's some crazy girls in Holland, but how did you get the scar on your face?
Well, it happened actually in a fight. I was young at the time, I was 15, and somebody hit me with a glass in the face.
So the glass rumour was true?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, speaking of 15, this is the same age that you started training in martial arts, right? Your brother Valentine got you interested in martial arts at 15 years old?
Yeah. To get me more disciplined, calm me down. I was a little bit of a rebel and getting into a lot of fights. Yeah, so he took me to the gym, get me focused, get me out of trouble, give me some sort of direction. And that was after, of course, my cheek healed up. And I've been training ever since. When
you were 15, so it was 1995, it was a time of legends in Holland. I mean, Dutch fighting was really at its peak. You had Rob Carmen winning the K2 Grand Prix in France at that time. You know, Lucia Riker was the #1 female fighter in the world. Bas Rutten was dominating in pancrase at the time in Japan, beating the likes of Frank Shamrock and Maurice Smith. Peter Ertz won his second K1 title, of course, in 1995. What was it like, the atmosphere at that time, being a 15-year-old starting martial arts in Holland at a time when Dutch martial arts was just at a peak?
When I came into kickboxing and wrestling, which I started both at 15, I didn't really pay much attention to the champions. Of course, there were the idols, but I wasn't really that much into fighting. That came a little bit later. But yeah, for me, my idol was my brother. When I was 15, when he took me to the gym, he was 19 and he got his first fight in Rings Japan. That was a big organization at the time. And that was just really looking up to him and going to Amsterdam to the gym, and there were all these names training there as well. But I was just, yeah, we were overwhelmed by it all. And yeah, who was I? I was a little guy. No strength, no technique, no nothing. Got my ass kicked every day at the gym. So I was just taking it easy and looking up to everybody.
So many great stars. You know, you flick back through the likes of Ramon Decker as well, and Gilbert Ballantyne. So many great fighters who have come through Holland over the years. The late Peter Smit, of course, and so many more. It must have been a huge inspiration growing up in that era and getting into martial arts in that era as well, and getting to interact with these guys, both in the gym and at shows where you saw them or on television.
My brother, of course, being 4 years older, he was already in the scene. So I just went with him and I just tagged along and met everybody. And yeah, I can remember I was a little bit shy because they were all the big guys, the champions. But yeah, later you fight yourself, you become a little bit better yourself, and you become a little bit more on the same level, talking and talking about stuff. And but I remember being shy and meeting Chris Norman, Dick Fry, Gilbert Ballantyne. But of course, when you first meet them, you don't even know what they're doing. But later on, you see some tapes and this and that, and it was amazing.
If you had to list one of the Dutch fighters that you could say was a particular inspiration, or more so a guy whose fighting style you particularly admired? Who would it have been over the years?
Definitely in the beginning, my brother. And because he was an all-round fighter at the time, stand-up and ground, strong guy, very athletic, a talent and learned quickly. Then you look at other fighters, Peter Arts and Alistair, you know, the big shows. Then it changed to fighters from foreign countries. Nogueira was a talent. Fedor definitely was a big name. Vito Belfort. You know, I remember I was 17 when I watched his tape. It was like awesome what he was doing in UFC, like just killing everybody. And yeah, later I'm fighting these guys myself.
I was about to say, what's the feeling like? You know, guys like Vitor Belfort, who you admire, and a guy like Peter Ertz, who is a legend that we all admire, and then later on you're fighting them and you're beating them. You beat Vitor twice, you beat Peter Ertz, you broke his rib cage. You know, you're fighting guys that you grew up admiring. What's it like to actually get in the ring or the cage with them?
I was not a fan. When I fought them, I was not a fan. I was just an opponent, and I just wanted to destroy them.
Who would be the greatest Dutch fighter, in your opinion, of all time?
I mean, Roman Dekker is definitely one of my favorites because he's just over 200 fights and he fought the best and had their own rules. But I also greatly respect Alistair, Peter Arts, still fighting the young guys. Definitely can respect that.
Bas Rutten.
Cases
could be made for all of them, I suppose.
Yeah, but I think I would respect fighters who fight longer periods of time more.
Sure.
Like Peter Arts, he's been fighting for 20 years now.
Exactly, he's been started in 1987, 88.
Yeah, he's like a sort of pioneer,
Yep.
fighting at the highest level, but he's still fighting at the highest level. I mean, that takes dedication, that takes will, you know, and not even to mention about the drain he's been putting on his body.
Yeah.
I mean, that by itself is extraordinary.
What's extraordinary is the Dutch success over the years, particularly in Muay Thai. Was it the pioneers who went firstly to Japan in the 1970s and then brought that back to Holland? Or was it guys like, you know, Ballantyne and the early pioneers who went to Thailand and learned authentic Muay Thai and brought that back to Holland?
I think it's a combination, because they both brought back to Holland components which they developed and made better. And in the beginning it was only Amsterdam, Rotterdam and perhaps Utrecht. And yeah, they would fight against each other. There was high rivalry between the cities. A lot of events. And that just grew. I mean, each city, there's a lot of cities in Holland and everything is like 1 hour drive away or 30 minutes or 20 minutes.
So the camps could mix with each other, could mingle, share techniques?
A lot of events, small, medium, not that big, but a lot of, yeah, how do you say it, competition.
Right.
And that just upped the level. I mean, and when you look now, there's every weekend there's a couple of events, Saturday and Sunday, and that just keeps it going.
You know, we hear these legendary stories about the Dutch sparring sessions, that they're full on, that sparring in any of the big Dutch gyms, be it Golden Glory or Majiro or Mike's Gym, whatever it may be, that the sparring is almost harder than the fight itself. From your own experiences at Golden Glory, where most of the top fighters these days in Holland reside, is the sparring that full on as the legend tells?
Definitely is. Over the years, I got my ass kicked, and especially when I just got started, I didn't have any strength, no conditioning, no technique, no nothing, and they didn't take it easy on me. Especially my brother, he was not taking it easy. He was just kicking. I think he was kicking me more hard. You know, you have to learn how to fight, and if you're fighting for your life every time, that's not learning how to fight. You have to learn the technique. Yeah, and then yeah, a lot of people training. I mean, it's not only fighters, but it's also the sparring partners, the people who do it for a hobby, who do not fight in the ring, but they just love to train, love to work out, love to think about the techniques. So they're a driving force as well. And not to forget the fans. I mean, we have every weekend fans attending the shows, and usually there are people, because it's not that big of shows, but don't forget, we do not have the sponsorships, we do not have the television backing these events. Actually, kickboxing is a little bit on the gray side, so it's not being supported by big companies at all. So it's the grassroots fans. It's the friends of the fighters. You know, a fighter, I would sell like 100 tickets to all my people around me, and they would attend the show.
Yeah.
And that would like support the event, support me to be able to do it.
Yeah. That said, though, I mean, I've been to Amsterdam a couple of times for the K1 shows. 25,000 people at the Amsterdam Arena. It's a crazy atmosphere. The crowd is loud like a soccer crowd. It's smoky in there. You go outside and you can smell the wafting of marijuana when they have the smoke breaks. It's a crazy atmosphere, and I've commentated shows all over the world, but I don't think there's anything that quite compares to the atmosphere at these Dutch shows. How was it for you as a fighter? I mean, you fought in Japan on mega audiences in Pride and in K1 and at Dynamite last year, 45,000 people. But how is Japan and America compared to fighting at home in Holland?
I would say it's become mainstream in the US. It already is mainstream in Japan. So it's bigger. You can notice that on the fans camping outside their hotel. You can see that on sponsorships. I remember walking in the street in Japan and suddenly you see a poster of yourself like, how do you say it, 8 feet big, you know, it's even bigger than me. You have a poster of you, date of the event. You know, a lot more PR, a lot more promotion. So yeah, it is more mainstream. And that attracts bigger audience, widespread audience. Of course, the audience is a little bit different. In Japan, they're more quiet. In America, they're more outgoing, and in Holland as well. But yeah, I just keep relaxed before the fight.
Early in your career, you were also the owner of a magazine, which I was quite surprised to find out. What was the magazine called?
Magazine's name was Royal Rumble.
And that was your own magazine?
Was my magazine.
So you were writing for it and photographing for it?
No. I had people doing that for me. I did do some advertisement. But in the end, it was really nice to do. It was the #1 magazine in Holland. It looked good, looked excellent. But in the end, it just cost a lot of energy, which I didn't put into my sport. And I don't regret doing it because I learned a lot. But I should not have done it because I'm an athlete, I'm a fighter, and I need to put all my attention in fighting. And when I look back on that period, there were some fights that I lost, which I didn't have to lose. Yeah. And that was purely because during my afternoon nap, I was writing bills to companies, and I didn't have the rest that I needed.
Wow, Holland in the mid-1990s. What a time of Dutch legends. What a time for Alistair Overeem to enter the martial arts. Folks, stay with us because still to come here on The Voice versus the Reem, we debunk some urban legends about those fighting Overeem brothers. And also, Alistair talks about his, well, very peculiar diet. All that and more on The Voice versus the Reem. Welcome back to The Voice versus Alistair Overeem. You know, Alistair attributes his bustling physique to certain qualities in his diet. It's high-protein diet. He eats a lot of beef and he eats a lot of chicken. But there's another peculiar aspect of his diet that's become quite famous. It's a steak of the equine quality, I suppose you could say. Yes, Overeem is known for eating a lot of horse meat. So I thought while we're here in Seoul, I'd put him to the test and see if he could distinguish the taste between, no, not dog meat. They do eat that here in Seoul. But a taste test between some beef and some horse meat. As always, you're looking in spectacular condition. It's a physique that Michelangelo could have carved. It's probably the best physique going around in the fight game, full stop. We're all aware of that. Now, I know you've said that part of your diet, interestingly, is horse meat. It's a topic that's been brought up sometime. You know, so when you look at a picture like this, right, or you look at a picture like this, and most of us think beautiful, regal creature and a flowing mane and a silky, shiny coat on it. Do you sort of look at that photo and think, food?
I get hungry when I see it.
Do you watch The Godfather and that scene with the horse's head and you think, that's a fine waste of a good damn steak right there?
No, I get this look.
So, well, you know what? While you've got that look, I'm going to call the waiter into the room. We've got something here for you, Alistair. So call our waiter, Garçon, bring forth the food. We've got something for that. I got you covered here, man. I got you covered.
Actually,
we think of everything for the
I
voice
got hungry
versus.
when I saw the.
So our waiter now is bringing a couple of products here to us. Now, we believe that a good Clydesdale or Arabian horse is served well with a bit of red wine, so we've got some red here as well for you. There's two meats here, Alistair. One is beef, one is horse meat. I'm going to get you to do a taste test. Have a try of both of those. Take a sip of wine if it helps the palate, and see if you can tell me which one is horse meat and which one is beef. Thank you, Garçon. There'll be a tip for you later on. Please.
I can't say no to this. But I don't drink any wine.
Okay, I'll have the wine.
Okay, we're going to go for Exhibit A.
First time I've ever drunk on the job. Exhibit A.
I don't like dried meat, though. That's not my thing.
One is beef, one is horse meat.
And you know which one?
I do. And I know we're here in Korea, but don't worry, we haven't slipped dog meat in there anywhere.
No, I was worried about that.
Although the dog meat was easier to find here than the horse meat. This is the Overeem taste test, ladies and gentlemen. He sampled one, now he goes in for the second. Look at the contemplative look on his face as he chews away, his mind ticking over, his palate working overtime. Thousands of taste buds.
Horse, beef.
Indeed, horse.
It's pretty good, actually.
Well done. Well done. A connoisseur
I'm going to
indeed.
finish this.
It's all yours. Tell me about horse meat. How did you discover the properties and the high protein of horse meat?
Somebody I knew, and that's a lot of advice you get. It was actually a long time ago, 10 years ago. Told me the best protein is horse meat. And I tried it and it was good. So I don't eat it always, but I just eat it every now and then.
Is it raw or do you cook it? How do you prepare it?
Can have it on a sandwich. So you just buy some slices, have it on a sandwich. But the other thing was what I tried in Thailand, shark fillet.
Shark fillet. Nice, nice. So it could be moving away from the horse meat onto the shark. But can you get shark in Holland? I know in Australia we've got plenty of sharks.
I think you could.
You could?
I think you could. It's going to be expensive. But you know what the thing is? It's nice to vary a little bit in the protein. If you're going to eat the same stuff every day, that's a little bit boring.
You know, we saw a video online just released recently, you going shopping and stacking up on horse meat, and the grocery bill came to an exorbitant amount of money. And I know that you eat like 8 times a day, 8 meals a day. So roughly, what would an Overeem food bill come to on a weekly basis in the Overeem household?
Well, that was a weekly thing.
That was in 1 week, all that food?
Yeah, let's say 150 a week.
Damn. That's a lot of horse meat, Alistair. You can buy a whole stable for that. You know...
But it's not only horse meat.
Okay.
It's also toilet paper.
Goes in good, but I'm sure it doesn't come out that great. You know, weight's always been a bit of an issue, especially when you were fighting in Pride, when you had to make it to 93 kilos, 205. How much of a struggle was it for you, though, to make 205?
The thing was, I could do it in the beginning, no problem. But later on, when you become older, you become more heavy. That's natural, that's with everybody. So in the beginning it was no problem, but later on, weight cutting just cost more energy, and I had to drop weightlifting, and that is like an important conditioning thing. I mean, so you're already losing strength by not doing a certain training, and later on, it just didn't work out anymore.
Because there were 3 fights you lost in a row there in Pride, right? And after that, you immediately made the jump to heavyweight.
Yeah, I can tell you there were more personal factors involved due to the 3 losses, and that was the magazine for one. Second, but actually more important, my mother got cancer. People don't know that, but you know that stuff drains energy. I mean, you're not occupied, you're not focused, you're not training with the 100% that you're doing before, and you can see it in the results.
The hustle and bustle of the marketplace in Seoul, Korea, and we're about to put some muscle behind it as the voice versus the ring continues here on HDNet. Welcome back to The Voice versus Alistair Overeem. You know, Alistair's mountainous biceps and his wrestling body have often fueled speculation that he may be taking steroids, certainly since he's jumped to heavyweight back in the old Pride days. Let me state for the record that Alistair has never pissed hot on a steroid test. But you know what? That's enough for me. Let's hear from this modern-day warrior about how he answered the constant allegations of steroid use. A lot of people speculate on the steroid issue with you. Chael Sonnen tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs just recently. Ken Shamrock has come out and said that, you know, he took performance-enhancing drugs, and, you know, he says a lot of people have been taking them in the past. Josh Barnett tested positive twice to roid usage.
And that's weird.
You know? The finger gets pointed at you.
Because they don't look that good.
Exactly. People are very quick to point the finger at you, not knowing that backstory, as you said, the underlying reasons as to why you went to this weight, which is your natural weight, which is not an unnatural weight for you.
I'm going to tell you something. People have accused me of steroid use since I was 17. 17 was my first fight. I was weighing at 84 kilos. I don't know how much that is in pounds, but I was really looking like an animal then. And it is a genetic thing. You know, my body just doesn't hold any fat. My fat percentage is really low. That's why my muscles jump out. And my brother has the same. I mean, my brother doesn't live excellently like I do. I sleep, I eat good, I do everything what I need to do, and I don't do other stuff. I did do previously with the magazine, but I'm not doing that now. I'm just really living a focused life. My brother is not that focused. He eats a lot of crap. He's a little bit more focused now, but he always looked good as well.
Yeah.
He always was ripped, always had big muscles, no fat. That's one of the amazing thing. He doesn't eat that healthy, and especially a couple years back, he didn't eat healthy at all. But he still was ripped, no fat. So I think that's a little bit our secret. Yeah, we have good genes. Thanks mom and dad, and thanks somebody else maybe up there. Yeah, we're lucky.
Yeah.
We have strong bodies.
It's got to piss you off though, right? The amount of people that keep flogging this dead horse, pardon the pun, because I know we've just been eating
but
horses.
you know, I'm going to tell you something. There's always going to be people who are like you, and there's always going to be people who don't like you. And yeah, I can't be bothered by that. I'm just going to let them be.
Does it surprise you that more people don't direct that sort of criticism towards someone, say, like Brock Lesnar, who comes from an industry that is rife with steroid use, and it's been proven that it's rife with steroid use, the pro wrestling industry?
No, because people who don't like you, they're always going to be negative about you. I mean, if you beat somebody's hero, yeah, he's going to be hurt, and he doesn't like that, and he's going to be negative about you.
Does it piss you off when someone like Vadim from M1 will come out and say that, you know, maybe we're looking at Fedor versus Josh Barnett, as we said, a two-time court abuser of steroids, but they'll seemingly duck fighting you, and they'll seemingly say to you, no, Alistair, we'll only fight you if we put you through the most stringent Olympic-style drug testing, but at the same time, they're willing to fight a two-time abuser like Josh Barnett.
This situation is a bit different because this is somebody who does hold a position of influence. He is the management of Fedor, and if people of influence talk, people listen, and that is why his comments can be damaging. I mean, he can damage my image with his insults, which are totally unfounded and unbased. And like you said, they're willing to fight Josh Barnett twice. Well, has been caught twice doing steroids, and they're not willing to fight me. Well, I've done all the tests which were required everywhere where I fought, and I've never been tested positive. So that doesn't make sense. But you know, I've come to deal with the M1 management because we've been trying to put together the Fedor fight for a year and a half now, and my opinion about them is they're unfair, and they use all kinds of tricks to damage other people and to gain to their own advantage.
We should probably specify, because I know you've said it in other interviews, you have the highest respect for Fedor. You said it earlier on. So do you believe it's more a case of Fedor's management that are playing these games rather than Fedor himself?
You know, you have to choose the people who represent you carefully. Because when I look at his whole image, he was the king, the emperor, the last emperor. And slowly people are not appreciating anymore. Slowly they're thinking, hey, wait a minute, he's choosing his opponents. They're using tricks. Slowly it's turning a little bit against him, and that is not because of him, because he is just doing what he's doing. I mean, he's training, he's fighting, he's been dedicated, he's an intelligent guy, a little bit humble, but his management is just slowly turning things on him. And yeah, why is that? Yeah. In the end, I do believe as a fighter, as an individual, you're responsible for the people you attract to, who work for you. I mean, if my management does outrageous things, yeah, I choose my management.
Yeah.
You know, and of course things can happen, things always do happen, but you do always have to be a little bit aware of that and choose wisely.
You know, M1 claims that fans want to see Fedor versus Verdum 2 over Fedor versus Overeem, which I think is a load of bullshit. Your opinion on that?
Well, I think it's bullshit too. I think everybody wants to see our fight. I think everybody wants to see our fight for a long time now, for a year and a half. I've been trying to make that fight happen for a year now. I've been really trying to make it happen for the last May in Strikeforce. The truth about the whole thing is they declined to fight me for the May event. And they basically said, you go fight somebody else first. You must deserve it to fight against Fedor, although I'm the champion, so that's also a little bit weird. I mean, is the belt not worth anything? Don't you want to win the championship? But that was basically what they said. You're going to fight somebody else first. We're going to fight Verdum, because they had the ability to pick a little bit. Yeah. They were a little bit in that position, and they could a little bit be like, okay, him not, but we would like to fight him. And yeah, they were picking an easy fight over Verdum. And then maybe after, we would have a fight, maybe.
Has the luster gone out of that now, with the loss to Verdum?
Definitely a bit. And why? Because I want to be the one to beat Fedor. I think I definitely have all the weapons to not only beat him, but to really have a spectacular fight, to make it a fight, you know, the whole world would tune into. Now that he's already been beaten, the glow is a little bit off. Yeah. Second thing, you know, all of the manipulations, all of the tricks going on, you know, it's the fun is going out of it, you know? Because I went to the stage to challenge the winner. And first of all, the winner was Verdum. Well, okay, he won the fight. It was a big upset. Congratulations to Verdum. Okay, I'm going to challenge you. He wants to fight Fedor for a rematch. Fedor wants to fight Verdum for a rematch. Well,
yeah. I was there with you in San Jose. We were there that night when Fedor got beaten by Verdum, and
big upset, huh?
It was a huge upset. And I could see the disappointment on your face afterwards, because I know you wanted to get in the cage and challenge Fedor, and you, as most of us assumed, you know, thought that Fedor was going to win that fight. So you fought Verdum in 2006. You lost via Kimura. You fought him in 2010, 2011. How does that change? What's the outcome?
I'm going to knock him out or dominate him very bad. I'm going to humiliate him, and I'm going to show him that this is a very different Alistair. And you know, he's a strong ground fighter, but to make the example, when I fought him the first fight, that was in my bad period. Mother had cancer, magazine, writing bills. He had a 13-kilo weight advantage. I was actually light heavyweight. He was a full-blown heavyweight. So things have changed. I've grown a lot as a fighter. He has grown as well, and he has had some impressive victories. But still, when I look at his fight style, I'm still very not impressed, and I was not impressed by the first time I fought him.
You know, you're the only fighter in the world that swings between the two highest forms of fighting. Is that a difficult lifestyle to live, constantly switching, because there's so many differences between striking in K1 and striking in MMA? And B, which is harder, MMA or K1?
Well, they're both a bit different, but fighting overall is always the same. Even if you play a computer game or you're gonna be playing tennis, then other factors come into play: character, conditioning, shape of the day. So basically, fighting overall is the same, but these are two different sports. I would say that the K1 has been a very strong add to my MMA, because MMA you're already fighting stand-up, but in the K1 you have to develop the stand-up game more. And when I look at my stand-up game now, it's far more better than it was before I did the K1. So it's been a great plus.
So if K1 helps to add to your MMA game, Does your MMA game help at all to add to your K1 fighting?
I think you can see that in, let's say, the Teixeira fight, or you can see that in, for example, the Remy fight. Although I lost that fight, which I do not agree with, but if you look back on that fight, that guy didn't have anything on it. I just went through him and he was lying more on the ground. And I mean, and that came from a guy who had how many fights? 8 K1 fights. And the K1 champion, the 3-time champion, is lying on the ground like a baby.
Yeah.
So that was MMA. I mean, yeah. Although I did change my fight style because, you know, K1 is not about takedowns and this and that and let somebody on the ground. But it did, when I look back on that fight, it did get to him psychologically. I did destroy him psychologically. He was on the ground all the time, and he looked like a fool. He didn't look like a champion at all. And if I'm going to be champion in something, and I'm going to fight somebody who has 8 fights, you need to wipe him off the map.
So this is the thing that is so scary about you when you fight. You mentioned a very good word, destroy, because that is your style. You are the demolition man. You just destroy opponents. You don't outpoint them. It's never a slow, boring fight. You literally destroy another human being in the ring. I mean, you look at someone like Teixeira. When you need him at the Grand Prix, I thought you'd fucking killed him. He was out on his stomach, laid out. When you need Fujita at Dynamite, you put him in a mini coma.
That was bad.
When you need Potarak, that dude was astral traveling. I look back at that, and for me, it's very hard to watch because we know these guys, and it's hard to see someone's face get caved in by an Overeem knee. Do you ever look back at some of the footage and have a bit of remorse for like, oh shit,
Definitely.
that was
Definitely.
pretty vicious?
Definitely. When I fought for Vegeta, I definitely had some remorse, because he is one of the fighters. He's been fighting a long time. You know, he's fought the big names. I don't know. He's Japanese. I like him. I like Japanese fighters. I don't know why. Maybe because they're respectful. You know, they just do their thing. If I don't like somebody, then I have no problem at all kneeing his face. But if I do like somebody, I'm gonna do it anyway. But after, I'm gonna always feel like, yeah, you know, you do it. It's your work. It's your job. But I don't feel proud about it.
Gotta love the Ream. Folks, stay with us here on HDNet. More when we return with The Voice versus Alistair Overeem from here in Seoul, Korea. Welcome back to Seoul, Korea. We're outside the Imperial Palace for what has been a royally wicked episode of The Voice versus so far, and it's only gonna get better because we're about to play that time-honoured game I know you love on The Voice versus. It's time for knockout, chokeout, wedgie, or a bowl of fried shrimp. And here's a little game that I always play on The Voice versus. It's called knockout, chokeout, wedgie, or a bowl of fried shrimp. I'm going to show you 4 photos of 4 different people. You have to choose who you'd like to knock out, who you'd like to choke out, who you'd like to give a wedgie to, and who you'd sit down to share a bowl of fried shrimp with, or more in your case, a steak, a horse steak with. Fedor Emelianenko, first of all. Ray Sefo, second. Old friend Bada Hari comes in third. Our fourth one is Brock Lesnar. So first of all, out of Brock Lesnar, Bada Hari, Ray Sefo and Fedor, who would you choose to knock out?
That would be. Could I see them on a?
You can. I shall display them all.
I'm a visual person.
Brock, Bada, Fedor, and Ray.
Okay, I would knock out. Huh?
Which one would you knock out?
Okay, that would be Brock.
Brock Lesnar. So knockout for Brock Lesnar. Who would you want to choke out? Fedor, Ray, or Bada Hari?
That would be Butter.
Choke out Bada Hari. Yeah.
Actually, when we signed for the first K1 fight, we agreed on 2 fights. Well, you're aware of that. And the second fight was going to be an MMA fight. Never materialized. Why? Well, because Butter didn't want to do it. He was knocked out on the first fight and he was like, I'm not going to fight you on MMA because I know I'm going to lose and I want to focus on kickboxing. So it would be nice to check him out.
Two more options left. One of these men you sit down with and have a horse steak, and the other one you give him a wedgie and pull his underpants up over his head.
I would have a steak with Ray Sefo.
Let's talk a bit about Ray Sefo, because there was a little bit of bad blood between you and Ray at the end of last year. Now, very few people know there was a little bit of a verbal altercation between you and Ray at breakfast before Dynamite at the East 21 Hotel in Tokyo, where you put it on Ray, basically, to step in the ring and fight you. Tell us about that incident.
Well, I do still believe Ray was a little bit disrespectful when I fought Baller the second time. I mean, look, you're the voice. You're there to hype the whole thing up. That's your job, and you're doing an excellent job at it. Keep doing that. I mean, if Baller was knocking down there, you would probably be doing the same. If I'm going to knock this guy out, I mean, that's your job. But Ray is a fighter, and he should not have done that. You know, you have to be a little respectful. And of course, it's a little bit loaded. Of course, it is. But he's a fighter. I mean, you don't want to be doing that if you're a fighter. Be professional. So I spoke to him about it during breakfast, and I did tell him, well, that I'm going to kick your ass in the next fight. You're going to be next on my list. But you know, now I'm over it. It's a new tournament, and you know, Ray is a gentleman.
Leaves us with Fedor, and you know, we spoke about him earlier on. But a fight with Fedor, how does this fight end?
It's going to be a knockout.
Knockout?
Yeah.
Standing knockout or ground and pound, do you think?
It can be both.
Really?
Can be both.
Interesting.
To be back to the thing with him, I would do.
Big atomic wedgie, you pull it up over his head. Come to Australia one day, I'll teach you how to give a good wedgie. Toughest opponent ever?
That would be, I would say Shogun.
Opponent who was easier than you thought he would be, who would that be? Badahari the first time you beat him? Brett Rogers, the way you manhandled him?
Yeah, Brett. Although I was in excellent shape.
Yeah.
So that would have gone, I would have won that fight anyway. There was no way I could have lost that fight.
Did they ever recover Mirko's testicle that you kicked into his stomach?
Yeah, that fight as well. That fight when he didn't hit me once.
I know after that fight you were a little disappointed that Mirko called it off. Of course, they said that you'd hit his balls so hard that one of them went up into his stomach. For real, or do you think he was just looking for a way out?
He was looking for a way out. I mean, you have a groin protection on, so that protects that area. And unless they can show me that it's broken, but you know, those things don't break. They protect that down there. And of course, there is a possibility that it could be a little bit, but I don't buy that. I don't buy that. When you look back at the fight, I tired him, ground and pounded him, I took him down at will. He didn't hit me once. That's a psychological thing you got on him. I cut him twice, one over the left eyebrow, one on the right eyebrow. He was bleeding, he was tired. That was his way out, and he took it.
We transpose Alistair Overeem, 2010 version, back in, let's put you in 1996, 97. 98, when K1 was in its glory days. You know, you had Mike Bernardo, Peter Ertz, Ernesto Hoos, the late Andy Hug, a young Ray Sefo was on the scene, Mike Bernardo, as I said. How do you think you would have hung and banged with those guys back then?
It definitely was a different time because the technique has improved somewhat. It's become a little bit different. But yeah, but still when I look at the older fights, still I can respect these guys. Still, you know, there's a lot of power behind all the shots being fired, a lot of strategy, and still it would be some interesting fights.
You know, getting back to mixed martial arts for a moment, a lot of criticism lately, and what is really being questioned at the moment seems to be the American wrestlers, you know, the wrestling style. We even seen it in Japan here a few times in Dream. It's the wrestlers shooting in, double leg takedowns, top position, holding an opponent down, and just grinding out pretty lackluster decision victories, which I know is something you've never been about, because I don't think anyone could ever criticise Alistair Overeem of ever having a boring fight. Now, you're a thinking guy, you're a smart guy. What would be your solution to try and overcome this problem that that wrestling is presenting at the moment, that so many fans are up in arms about, of these boring fights?
Well, I think in Japan they have a very good system for that. It already started in Dream. You're not allowed to hold the opponent. So there has to be a continuation of actions, and that goes for the attacker as well as the defender. You know, if one is on top and the other one is on the bottom. And you have to keep busy, you have to keep working to finish, and the Japanese would stimulate that. And if you don't listen to the ref when he gives you a direction, by repeated refusal, they're going to give a yellow card. Fight has been brought back up to the feet. So you could choose to do that scenario, to be passive, but it's going to cost you money because they deducted like 10% and of the fighting fee. And by, I believe, 2 or 3 yellow cards, you're going to be disqualified. So you cannot be doing that forever. You have to stay active. And what they did by that, they would stimulate you to already work that in your training game. So you can't hold. And I remember I got a yellow card.
Yeah.
I was tired. It was in the 18th minute. I was finally on top, Rodrigo Nogueira, and I just needed to get a breath. Eyes like this. And then, yeah, break. I was like, yellow card. Take the money. Take it. No, but yeah, so they stimulate you. But for me, I had to work on my game. I had to improve. You know what I mean? You can't just hold. And that will open up the game entirely.
Alistair Overeem, the fighter, you're devastating, you're a destroyer, you put people like Fujita into mini comas. It's hard to imagine Alistair Overeem, the wrecking ball, being Alistair Overeem, the dad. I know you've got a little daughter, Storm. How old is she now?
She turns 4 in October.
Tell me about being a dad and how that's affected your life.
Well, it definitely affected my life. I mean, you're responsible for another life. And privileged to be father of my little girl. She's very sweet. She definitely does not have my character. I was a little more devil. She's just very soft, very easy, very very nice, very calm, and yeah, changed my my attitude towards certain things. A little bit less reckless, a little bit more responsibility, and.
On that point, did it change your attitude towards fighting? Because this is interesting. I remember being on a bus trip several years ago, and I was in the bus with Ray and Peter Ertz, Ernesto Hoost and Jerome. And Ray was the only one out of those that didn't have kids at the time. Ray now, of course, has a 1-year-old son, Ramon. And Ray was going through a bad period where he was losing a lot of fights, you remember, in K1. It wasn't so long ago, maybe like 2-3 years ago. And Ernesto came out and said to Ray, you want to turn your fighting career around, have a kid. He goes, as soon as I had a kid, it turned me around and it gave me another impetus to fight for. It gave me another inspiration to fight for. And when I was getting beaten or I had to dig deep in training and I couldn't find anything else to inspire me, Ernesto told Ray, I'd think of my child. And all of a sudden I'd get the energy because I knew I was fighting not only for myself and not only to put money in the bank, but also fighting for the livelihood of my children. And Peter's comments were the same and Jerome's comments were the same. And I wonder do you feel that sort of emotion as well, that sometimes when you've got to dig deep in training or dig deep in a fight, does the child, your daughter Storm, play an inspirational part for you?
I think that's different for everybody. I mean, where we come from, you don't have to worry about if your kid is going to get food or not. So that life or death mentality is a little bit unfound, I think. But, and actually it worked negatively on me because my daughter was a crybaby for the first 6 months.
Wow.
So for the first 6 months, starting 2006, yeah, so
yeah.
Mother cancer, magazine, crybaby, every night wake up 10 times. You know, actually my fighting career went like this.
I was going to say, so people are very quick to criticise that portion of your career that we spoke about earlier on and making the jump, of course, to heavyweight from being 205 and going to a true heavyweight, which is what you are. And I guess a lot of people just don't understand the backstory of Alistair Overeem.
You know, people understand it if they listen at interviews, look at interviews, and they hear the other story. And yeah, people can be a little bit judgmental. Maybe that's a little bit human nature, but once they hear the story and they're a little bit positive, then they'll understand. People who are negative will never understand and they don't want to understand. So that's fine. But yeah, back to my daughter, it did definitely, it does motivate me in some way, but not like I have to earn money for my kid, you know? I want to make money for myself, I want to have a good life, and of course you want to give that good life to your kids so they have some more options later on. But yeah, where we come from, it's not life or death. It's
Does
not
she
like
watch any of your fights? Does she understand what you do?
Yeah, she knows I'm boxing. She knows I'm boxing now. Yeah. She knows I'm in Asia, far away, Japan, South Korea. She doesn't understand, so I'm always in Japan when I go this way. She knows I'm boxing, but yeah, does she really understand? I mean, how much can a 4-year-old understand? But slowly.
You know, I really enjoyed the online documentary, The Ream. It was great production. Congratulations on that, fantastic.
It was actually meant for the Fedora fight, you know, follow me into the Fedora fight. That has changed now a little bit. Just now changed to the K1 Grand Prix. So we're gonna show them a lot of backstage stuff. We're gonna show them my emotions, my training, my team, all the stuff going into the fight, a little bit backstage. And of course educate them a little bit about the K1 tournament. Because although K1 does have a big audience, it's broadcast in like 150 countries worldwide. Yeah. Still, there's a lot of people who don't know about the K1. Yeah. A lot of MMA fans who don't know about the K1, so we're gonna mix that up a little bit and educate them and yeah, see what's gonna happen.
The name The Ream was originally given to you by fans on the internet, and it seems to have stuck now. Have we ditched the Demolition Man nickname, and is The Ream here to stay? Am I now dubbing you The Ream on the commentary? I've got to know here, Alistair. I've got to know what's trending.
I would say The Ream, because of my last name, Overeem.
Fantastic, The Ream. Thank you very much for joining me on The Voice Versus. Pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Well, there you have it, the final word from The Ream, Alistair Overeem. He's a wrecking ball, he's a monster in the ring, but he's also a professional and a gentleman. Folks, hope you've enjoyed this very special edition from downtown Seoul, The Voice Versus. I'm Michael Chiavello. Big thank you to Alistair Overeem. Keep smashing them in true Ream style, and we'll catch you next time here on HDNet.